some days I just feel like people are slowly, or fuck it, some days rapidly, whittling away at the peace I work so hard to develop and at my personal space. They're pushing my buttons, stepping right through my friggin' boundaries, and just seem hell-bent on seeing how far they can push me before I lose my shit. How about you? Let's be real, I know they probably didn't wake up that morning and think, how can I piss Joanna off today? But I can't be the only one who has those days. The constant tiny interruptions, the do you have a sex that turn into half an hour, the email marked time sensitive where the only thing time sensitive about it is that they want the answer now for something that isn't even taking place for another 3 weeks, and people who just generally forget that you have other shit to do besides what they think they need right now. And in a world of constant, instant messaging, texting, and email that's created this illusion of constant availability, it can be really, really hard to maintain boundaries and say no and try to keep those peace thieves at bay, especially when it feels like our paycheck depends on us living up to the expectation that we're going to say yes. And the truth is, it's often not the big asks that steal our peace. It's the 37 tiny interruptions before lunch that feel like they're going to break us. So today, we're going to be talking about micro boundaries. And once again, not just for you, but because I need help building them too, let's dig into that. Life doesn't give us a map for healing and growth. Yeah, it's messy, uncomfortable, and not for the faint of heart. I'm Joanna LaRue, and this is Transformative Journeys, a podcast about resilience, self-discovery, and learning how to rebuild something meaningful after everything changes. We talk neuroscience, real life, unlearning, and all the messy stuff in between. New episodes drop every other Monday, and there's bonus content on YouTube if you want more in the meantime. Welcome back to Transformative Journeys with Joanna. I'm your host, Joanna, and if that felt like a bit of a vent, well, it was, because the inspiration for this episode came about as a result of another one of those days at work that absolutely tested every single coping strategy I have in my toolkit. Setting boundaries in your regular life can be hard enough. Sometimes really, really hard. And I'm getting better and better at setting boundaries and maintaining the ones I do set, but it does take practice. It isn't easy to sit with the discomfort of not always making other people happy. But I've noticed that the traditional big boundaries aren't necessarily a realistic strategy for the everyday personal peace thieves. And yeah, I mean the requests and notifications, the situations, and the people that slip under our radar, quietly draining us throughout the day. And the cold, hard truth is that most of us don't have the power and agency to set a lot of those big boundaries at work. Many of us work in environments where we're understaffed, but workloads, demands, and expectations continue to increase. If you're in a supervisory or management position, work time often bleeds into personal time with expectations that you're going to respond to work emails or text messages after hours. So let's back up for a minute, though, because the world we live in now, where the almost constant digital pings from instant messaging, social media apps, and emails coming into our smartphones keeps us pretty much on constant alert. It gives us the impression that if we can get the message instantly, we need to respond to it immediately. The reality is that our nervous system is not built for these constant micro demands, and our brains aren't designed to deal with the constant context switching of jumping back and forth between activities, apps, and cognitive tasks. In fact, a little brain trivia for you here. According to the research paper, Digital Multitasking and Hyperactivity, Unveiling the Hidden Costs to Brain Health, that was published by the National Institutes of Health, multitasking can impair cognitive abilities such as memory, focus, and decision-making, and reduce productivity by as much as 40%. And we're not just talking about switching between Facebook and Instagram here. It applies whenever you're switching between any task that requires you to use your brain. So everything. I think you're probably pretty safe to switch the laundry while you're talking to your mom on the phone. But even there, are you really paying 100% of your attention to either? And the study I just talked about also showed that people who often multitask are more likely to experience symptoms of depression and anxiety. Only around 2.5% of us are actually wired to be able to effectively multitask. And hello, I am not one of them. Yet almost all of us are expected to do it on a daily basis, and often by the people with the authority and agency to time block their calendars. So maybe this feels familiar. You've been assigned 3 main tasks to complete today. Each one has different themes and different tasks associated with it. But during your 7 or 8 working hours, 25 different internal updates, mini requests, and interruptions pop like popcorn kernels throughout your day. With every one of those interruptions, say it takes you 5 minutes to refocus, and studies actually show that it's more than that. That's 75 minutes of wasted, unproductive, unfocused time. Your company just paid you for an hour and 15 minutes of actually getting very little done and increasing the likelihood that you're going to make mistakes. Now you get home and you have dinner to make while you're listening to a podcast. I know, just stabbed myself in the back there. Helping your kid with their homework, throwing in a load of laundry while the pasta water comes to a boil, and trying to figure out how you're going to get little Susie to soccer and Bobby to swimming lessons at the same time tomorrow night. Oh, and your mom just called to ask if you remembered to send your grandmother a birthday card. Is it any wonder we're all stressed, tired, and overwhelmed? This isn't a personal failure problem. It's an environment problem. So if we can't control the volume of demands, we need to change how we respond to them in small, realistic ways. We've talked about big boundaries here quite a few times. And even if you're new here, you've probably heard lots about those. Setting firm boundaries to protect your time and energy. They sound great in theory, but in practice, they're not always realistic. And at work, they may not even be remotely possible. Because the truth is that traditional big boundaries advice ignores the reality that we can't just implement them sometimes without risking career consequences. And the wellness industry has kind of sold us a fantasy. And maybe some of my previous episodes left you feeling a bit like I did, that to protect your energy and bandwidth and not burn out, you need to make dramatic assertions, set up barbed wire fences, or at least draw firm and visible lines around your boundaries in order to protect your well-being. Let's just say I'm not softening my stance around boundaries, but today I'm working on offering and implementing a more nuanced interpretation. They're called microboundaries. And microboundaries are small, daily, and intentional ways of protecting your time, energy, and attention without blowing up your life or risking your job. Microboundaries are about regulating your nervous system, not about controlling other people, or even imagining that we have much agency over the real life demands that we have little to no control over. They're subtle, often internal decisions that can help to prevent us from feeling like we're constantly operating in a state of high alert. Most people won't even notice them because it's not about becoming unavailable. It's all about becoming more intentional. Peace often isn't destroyed in explosions. It's eroded away by the teaspoonful. And microboundaries are the teaspoonfuls that instead are quietly building up a protective barrier. Not the barbed wire fence, just a little garden enclosure helping with pest control. So how does that look in real life? Because real life is what we do here. It starts with identifying your peace thieves. You know, the little daily leaks, the things that don't seem like a big deal in the moment, but add them all up, and by 2 p.m. you're ready to lose your shit at the next person who stops at your workstation, or put your employee card in the shredder and hope it sets fire to the whole friggin' building. Maybe some of them look like the coworker who stops by your desk expecting your attention or help right now. The friend who text messages during work hours. The email with time sensitive in the subject line. Your own phone. Yes, I see you out there with notifications turned on for 43 apps in your phone. But you know what is really sneaky? None of these seem inherently unreasonable. They just build up, leading to the spontaneous combustion you feel by the end of the day. Sometimes, though, let's face it, the predator is internal. It has nothing to do with someone else's real expectations and everything to do with our internal yes reflex. That insidious social conditioning that we can't fully control because it's just part of our neural wiring that makes us feel like saying no is a threat to our social safety. So, hello, people pleasers, perfectionists, and yes people. Our brain whispers, careful, you need to keep this person liking you. And might I remind you here, just for a second, that you don't need to like everyone, and everyone doesn't need to like you. You may need to ensure that you're doing your job, being a good parent, which, by the way, looks different in every family situation, and trying to generally be a decent human being. But everyone on the planet ain't gonna like you. But back to our regularly scheduled program. So start paying attention and note those moments where you feel scattered, stretched thin, frustrated, or you're struggling with focus, attention, concentration. These are like little yellow flags that pop up throughout your day. Not quite the red flags of burnout, more like caution flags telling you that your focus is becoming fractured and your stress level is increasing. So now back to the predators for a second. Does it tend to be associated with specific people? emotionally or around the asks and expectations. And be honest with yourself here. Is this issue something you truly can't control? Like the fire alarm going off in the building, this CEO calling to say they have an unexpected and urgent need for your input about something, or a family emergency? Or are you merely responding to every ping, ping, ping on your computer and phone to calm the cortisol spike and feed the dopamine monster? Or have you simply programmed yourself to run on autopilot, responding to every notification and email automatically without critical thinking around your time, bandwidth, or the sender or the content of the message? Only once you've created that awareness can you start to pull out the situations and circumstances where you can start to implement some micro boundaries. No big leaps across tall buildings. We're talking small changes implemented in steps and stages that can begin to protect your emotional equilibrium. Consistency here matters much more than magnitude. All right, quick pause. But wait a sec. I know some of you just reached that skip 15 seconds button. Don't lie. I saw you. But if something in this episode is hitting home, following and sharing costs you nothing, and neither do the tools I've created to support you. There's a link to my free resources in the show notes, things like the Bounce Back Blueprint, mindfulness tools, and resiliency supports you can actually use in real life. Free for you, huge deal for me. But if you ever feel like supporting the podcast beyond that, there's also a Buy Me a Coffee link in there too, waiting patiently in the show notes. All right, let's get back to it. Okay, so now that we've nailed down some of our peace thieves, maybe have even admitted to a few of our internal predators while we're at it, what do we do with all that? What does implementing micro boundaries look like in real life? Because awareness is all well and good, but if we don't do anything with it except jot it down in a notebook and carry on as before, all we're doing is becoming nicely self-aware and still overwhelmed. So let's talk about some micro boundaries that are actually doable in a real job, with real people, in real life, with real expectations. Nothing that requires you to confront anyone or quit your job or might get you fired. Simple, actionable, almost immediate relief. Micro boundary number 1, the micro pause. Yep, just pause. How unself-helpish is that? Before you look up, before you click on the email or the message, before you respond, before you say yes, jump to fix, help, react, which also means before you reply. Like seriously, not everything needs an immediate response. Your brain just thinks it does. Partly how we've been socially trained ourselves over the past half decade, partly neural wiring. Our brain evolved to be triggered by literally anything new-ish, because the pings aren't exactly new, they're just new in the moment while you're doing, something else. But anything unexpected, and literally everything is unexpected when we're in the middle of deep focus work of any kind, and also anything it thinks is expected by someone it perceives as higher up in our social structure. It jumps in quick and says, respond quick, stay likable, don't risk making them angry. So we're going to override that just just slightly, probably pretty much imperceptibly. There's no big dramatic, not now, just a pause before transferring our attention. And brain trivia moment. There's actually a sound neuroscience-based reason behind that pause. It gives our brain a micro moment to actually shut down our attention to the current context and allow us to focus with more intention on the new person, task, message, whatever. So whenever possible, we're going to insert a gentle external pause here too. And that might look like, give me 5 minutes to complete this, whatever, section, task, sentence, and I'll be right over. Using the word over instead of saying with you, and this is something I've learned, can often prevent the hoverer, the person who stands behind you, over your shoulder, or just off to the side of your desk waiting for your 5 minutes to be over. So I love that I will be right over piece. I've found it incredibly helpful. It might look like, let me take a look and get back to you. Or, do we have time for me to complete this blank before we jump into that? I should be finished in about whatever blank minutes. And if they say no, you can follow up with the then just give me 5 minute strategy. These pauses help you move from reaction, which is a cortisol thing, to intention, giving your thinking brain a little bit of a chance to catch up with your reacting brain. The second micro boundary is a bit of an extension of the micropause, and this one is like a little bit of magic for work environments, but almost equally so for family. It's the not right now boundary. The truth is that most requests aren't unreasonable. It's just that the time frame isn't specified in the request, or we jump to an automatic assumption that the expectation is right now. Often, the overwhelm isn't about the task, it's about the timing. You don't have to, and sometimes you can't say no. But you usually can say, not right now. So similar to our micropause, micro boundaries, that might look like, I'm in the middle of something. Can I come by in 20 minutes? Or I can take a look at that this afternoon or tomorrow, whatever the time frame is. Or can you send me the details and I'll get back to you once I have an understanding of how much time this is going to take me? This little strategy can really help protect your focus on the task at hand without creating additional stress for you or friction because it's perceived as reticence by the other person. Here's one that addresses something I'm super guilty of. It's the single task reset. Our brains just aren't designed to do the 2-minute context switch 30 times an hour. So this involves protecting one task at a time. And I've recently started to work on this at my day job because I am not kidding when I said I am super guilty of this one. It's sort of like time blocking, but a little less planned and structured, because official time blocking for some of us in our jobs isn't really, let's say, sanctioned. So things like reviewing emails for a 15-minute block, literally, unless the building is on fire, no one's going to notice if you don't answer a Teams message during that 15 minutes. I delete anything that doesn't apply to me right away, put a red flag on anything that should receive, a response right away or by the end of the day, and I remark anything that needs my attention soon but isn't necessarily urgent as unread and roll around back to it later in the day. Now, granted, some days this is easy because I maybe only receive, a handful of emails that directly apply to me. But some days I have to either extend the time block another 15 minutes or do it several times throughout the day to keep on top of the 60 emails that hit me. But the point is that I'm trying to learn not to set my ass on fire every single time a new message hits my inbox. It might look like putting my Teams on to do not disturb and minimizing Outlook email for half an hour to finish up something before I move on to the next thing, which of course might be looking at Teams and Outlook. Often for me, it looks like turning off the vibrate on my phone. I never have the ringer on, ever, much to my husband's chagrin. Or even sometimes putting the phone in my purse where I can't even hear it vibrate. Focus in itself is a micro boundary. And none of this is about perfection, about getting it right every day or not allowing for some flexibility. It's about doing what you can when you can to reduce cognitive chaos and to provide your nervous system with a little security blanket whenever possible. All right, here's one for my people pleasers. You don't have to be the one to deal with every single request. And I don't care how important you think you aren't the only one able to do all the things. Sometimes a micro boundary is just redirecting. How about if the right answer is just, you might want to check in with so-and-so. They actually know way more than I do about that. Or, I just can't drop what I'm doing right now. Here's a quick suggestion that might help. Come on back to me later on if it doesn't work, and I'll see if I can help you then. Or you can find that whatever, wherever it actually is. You're still being helpful. You're just not being everyone's solution to everything. All right, now I'm going to hit some of you where it hurts. I know, because I've actually had to double up on micro boundaries on this one. It was so hard for me. We're going to talk about your phone for a minute. Because some of you are carrying one of your peace thieves around in your pocket or purse all day and sleep with it at night. Okay, I am guilty about that piece because I haven't owned a real alarm clock in over 15 years and I listen to a sleep app or an audiobook to fall asleep. So, still guilty. But what I no longer do is have all of my app notifications turned on. No ping, no sound, no light, no red dot, nada. Every single notification we get is a micro interruption, whether we respond to it or not. And every one of those interruptions creates what's called attention residue, where part of our brain is still stuck on that thing. Which app was it? Was it Facebook? Email? A text or phone call from the school because Susie isn't feeling well? So here's another micro boundary. Turn off all non-essential notifications. Or all of them. If you're expecting an important message, set yourself a boundary of checking your texts every half an hour or so. Because do you know what? When I was in school, I'm dating myself here, there were no cell phones. If I was sick and my mom wasn't home to answer when the school called, I laid on the couch in the office at the school until they could get hold of her. And guess what? I didn't die once. Seriously, you don't need breaking news alerts, Instagram likes, and 3 different apps telling you what someone had for lunch. check your phone intentionally, not reactively. So this one is for those of us who allow our work life to bleed into our personal time, or vice versa. I see you, remote worker whose dog barks to be let out and in every 15 minutes. For some of us, it's death by 1,000 paper cuts. For others, it's more of a gaping chest wound. But this one really matters. To you, for your health and overall well-being, to your family, and you know what? To your employer too. Because you just can't give 100% to your work when your focus is constantly interrupted or divided. The microboundary is creating a clear beginning and ending to your day. That means closing your laptop and actually turning it off first. I have a hybrid work from home arrangement. I'm very fortunate. So I know that unless I close my laptop and actually turn it off before I do, if my headset isn't plugged in, I still hear the pings. It means writing tomorrow's top 3 tasks down to help you stop thinking about them for the rest of the evening. And go ahead, mentally say it. I'm done for the day. And like I said, this goes both ways. When it's time to start your work day, put the dog in their crate, in another room, shut the office door, train them for work at home time the same way you train them for leave for work time. Put a note on your door for deliveries telling them, to leave the packages at the door and limit yourself to grabbing them at actual break and lunchtime. This signals to your brain that one rule is over for now and you're stepping into the other one. And the last one is actually pretty easy to quietly implement without anybody ever knowing. And it's creating 5-minute pockets of peace. And even 2 minutes can be helpful. And what do I mean by that? Take a quick breather in between tasks. A bit of slow breathing, a quick walk to the washroom or the lunchroom to fill your water bottle, stand up and look out the window for a couple of minutes. Even brief parasympathetic activation helps reduce cumulative stress load. And one last thing. Remember that microboundaries go both ways. How we communicate and support other people's boundaries sets the tone for setting our own microboundaries. Little things can matter a lot, like checking if someone's available before launching into a conversation, not interrupting or speaking over others, not stepping into someone's personal space or touching or moving their things without asking first, accepting when someone says no or not right now without questioning or pushing it further. All right, it's time for your reflection prompt. I always say if you have a notebook or paper handy, or just take it on your next walk with you, but I think these ones might be most helpful if you did take the time to sit and write them out. But you don't have time for that, that's okay. Of course, if you're driving, whatever, just go ahead and contemplate them for now. Make it kind but honest, and as always, be self-compassionate. What are my top 3 daily micro stressors? What would one micro pause or soft no look like this week? And where can I insert one 5-minute pocket of peace? This week we talked about micro boundaries, the cute but super important younger sibling to the big boundaries. None of these are big, noticeable, dramatic changes. If it feels almost too simple, that's because we've been taught that change has to be big to matter. But the fact that they're small doesn't mean that they can't be life-changing. Because small, subtle, repeatable changes can have a profound impact on our overall well-being. And consistency matters more than magnitude. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. Our peace doesn't necessarily disappear because of one significant event. More often, it leaks through the 57 tiny holes punched into your focus throughout the day. Micro boundaries are how you begin to patch some of those leaks. Remember, not everyone needs immediate access to your attention, especially not your inbox or instant messaging. Thank you for being here with me today. Come say hi to me on Instagram at transformativejourneys.joanna, or visit my website, say hi to me there. Did you know I do an enhanced version of this podcast on YouTube with on-screen prompts, beautiful visuals, and a more immersive experience? Head over to my YouTube channel, Transformative Journeys, and check it out. If you have an idea you'd like to hear me talk about, leave me a message. You might see it in a future episode. And last, you know that hitting the subscribe button, tapping the bell, like, whatever it is on your platform, helps my podcast. At least I hope you know that by now. So I will make you a deal. Please tap it. And in return, I'm going to keep dropping the best of what's in my heart and my slightly sarcastic soul so we can keep learning together. Until next time, this is Joanna reminding you that it doesn't matter if you fall. What matters is how well you bounce. This is Transformative Journeys. See you next time. Your support helps me keep creating free tools and honest conversations. Because let's be real, even when you love what you're doing, sometimes it takes a whole lot of metaphorical duct tape to hold it all together. If you'd like to toss a little love into the duct tape fund, you can now support the podcast at buymeacoffee.com. I'll put a link in the show notes. Hey, just a disclaimer. This podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and should not replace the advice of a medical or mental health expert. I'm not a licensed counselor or therapist, just a human with a mic and a story of growth and resilience. No degree, no fancy letters after my name. I'm a full-time student at the School of Hard Knocks, University of Life, where I figure I'll graduate when I take my last breath. In other words, I'm just Joanna, a fellow human being on my journey through this thing called life, and your guide on this transformative journey.